We want that money to go to teachers' unions, and these teachers' unions have the capacity, because they are regulated by government. They have their standing instructions and standing orders to manage the affairs of the teachers and to manage any other shortcomings, because that's why they are mandated to be there. So we want that money, first of all, to be released immediately. Secondly, that money must go to the teachers' unions who are actually mandated and are organized to carry out the functions for which that fund is meant. Then, of course, the schools are about to open. We are saying we cannot allow the schools to open unless this issue has been addressed. In fact, we have talked to our membership across the whole country. If this money is not released by 10th of October, don't think about reopening of schools, even if it is candidate classes. Yeah, Kaganizo Mutesasara, President General, Uganda Liberal Teachers Union. As the teachers unions in this country, we have a number of other unions of teachers representing teachers, but we are standing here at this particular moment to review and consider the impact of COVID-19 on the teachers as workers and the teaching profession as a whole. Now, when COVID-19 came in, the schools were the first to be closed. You remember around 20th February 2020, all schools were declared closed under declaration of His Excellency the President, and all schools, including government and private schools and institutions of learning, were all closed. Now, a number of issues have affected our teachers and as workers, where the teachers, of course, some of them lost out jobs because of the lockdown of schools. This has greatly affected teachers in private schools and other private institutions of education and learning and teaching. So, however, one of the other challenges has been that all the teachers actually have remained jobless. They have remained at home, and a few teachers have been conducting lessons here and there, but that one translates into total lockdown of schools and loss of jobs for the teachers. Now, as unions, it is our actually primary mandate to look at the job distribution for our workers as teachers too. How are they surviving at the workplace? Then, do they have work to do? Then secondly, are they benefiting from the work that they are doing? So as unions, we have come together and we have been receiving a lot of issues and challenges and complaints from our workers, the teachers, how the pandemic has actually affected them. Because some of them have totally lost their jobs, like teachers in private schools. They are now jobless as we talk for a number of months since February, about now 7 months. Another one is that some of the teachers have actually lost on payments. Some of them don't have any salary because the schools were locked down, those in private schools. They are not paid. Some of them were paid last in October 2019. So when the lockdown came, some of the school managers said they had not collected enough money to pay for the teachers. So that means many of our teachers are staying in homes without jobs, without pay, and without the necessary benefits, necessary requirements for keeping for keeping their lives and keeping their families. Now, maybe one important thing is that the government did not shy away. They have continued paying the teachers who are employed in public schools. And I think that one is a great credit which we can give to government. But that one has left a very big gap because teachers were supposed to get allowances in form of transport, in the form of medical care, in the form of any other benefits and they were getting from schools. Now those benefits were totally cut off. So that means wherever they are, those who can manage to get salary, they are only depending on salary. Now, so I think that one was a gesture. And another challenge was, I think in a way there was some misinformation somewhere that some of the people, the total lockdown actually of the economy meant that most workers were at home without jobs and without necessary means of existence. Now, government came in under the COVID-19 task force to give some welfare support to some of the workers who had lost jobs because of the lockdown. Interestingly, the teachers were excluded from those to benefit from the welfare support from government. So, and in a way, it was presumed that as if every teacher was getting salary, every teacher was surviving. So teachers in private schools who are teaching formerly in private institutions didn't get that benefit from government. So that one has caused a lot of really untold suffering for our teachers, to the extent that some of the teachers have decided to hang themselves. Some of the teachers have lost lives, others have lost property, others have lost families because of the lockdown. And this one, I think the public has been a bit quiet about it. But as unions, we have been receiving complaints and we have been recording them, and we made a very great outcry to the employers, first of all, to retain those teachers as their employees. That one has been very, very important. Some of them have managed to stay them, others even wrote letters suspending them, others even wrote letters terminating them. So those are very, very serious challenges we are facing as trade unions who represent these teachers, and we are the people who are actually suffering those gross effects of the pandemic. So, but now midway, I think government learned that there was a very great unattended to section of workers, and these are teachers in private institutions. So the president came up and gave a support of close 2 billion shillings to help these teachers, first of all, on their survival, because some of them just need to survive. So I think that fund is supposed to help some of the teachers who have challenges of survival on day-to-day life. Secondly, it could also help the teachers to set up some sustainable programs and projects where they can get some income as we continue to live along the pandemic and meet the challenges that the pandemic has caused to this section of the workforce. Now, one of the challenges we have now as workers ourselves who are organized is that some people try to think that maybe they are better placed, they are better positions to manage the affairs of the teachers when it has not been their mandate, when it has not been their calling. We have had cases where some individuals, scrupulous individuals, went around and even went to the Ministry of Finance and drew that money on behalf of the teachers, and it has ended in individual hands. Some of these people have been apprehended and they have been arrested. Now the question is, why can't the teachers who have organized themselves be respected and be responded to so that they can also be helped under this issue of the lockdown and how they can survive the pandemic as we continue to observe the necessary procedures to protect the spread of the pandemic. Now, so the challenge is some people come up, they seem to be smarter and they want to represent teachers. That's the question. If it has not been your mandate to organize yourselves, second, organize teachers to look into their welfare, to look into their salary issues, to look into their survival issues and to listen to their complaints. How come that you now become very responsible and very actively involved in really managing the fund, which is supposed to help these teachers survive? So we have a lot of conflicting challenges. Some even organize themselves in the directors of education institutions. They want to manage the fund. They are the same directors of education institutions who have really chased away our teachers from work. Our teachers are jobless. They have not minded. They have not even thought about paying them, but they want to come up and manage a fund for the teachers. And this fund, as I think clearly put by the president, is supposed to help the teachers, those who have been adversely affected by the pandemic, on survival, but also on sustainable kind of livelihood. How do they survive and how do they sustain themselves while we continue to live amidst the pandemic? So those are the issues. One of our issues as unions, we have come together, like Uganda Liberal Teachers Union, like Uganda Private Teachers Union, where most of these teachers fall. We have come up to say that it is our mandate to organize teachers. Why do you organize border borders? Why do you organize market vendors? Why do you organize taxi drivers? Why do you organize all kinds of people, saloon operators, into kind of business operations and business systems, and they are given some support fund? And when it comes to teachers, they say that teachers who are organized cannot manage a fund, and you have to get somebody from Ministry of Finance to manage the fund on their behalf. I think that is totally ridiculous, and that's why we are coming up. And secondly, this thing has also brought about the mixture of who to manage the fund, and in the process, our teachers continue to suffer. Our teachers continue to lose. Of course, they have already lost jobs. So their livelihood is totally at stake. So are we going to keep in the wheelbarrow moving up and down, try to find out who should manage what, when the rightful owners and managers of the affairs of the teachers are there? When the teachers have organized themselves, they must be recognized and they must be given that mandate to manage their affairs, to know which teacher has lost a job, to know which teacher is not employed, to know which teacher is not being paid, who has been suspended or dismissed from the job. And that is the role of the mandate of the teachers.
So moving forward, what needs to be done to address this?
Now, what we have done as teachers unions, we have come together, we have had a series of meetings. One, we want this money to be immediately dispersed to the rightful owners. So without any further delay, because this is an emergency and we cannot keep moving around the subject. So that is one of the interventions we are calling upon. Number two, we are saying that the teachers have the capacity and the mandate to manage this fund. So there is no question about debating who should manage what. the rightful beneficiaries of the fund are there, and this money should go to organized trade unions of teachers, because this is provided in the international law, under United Nations, under International Labour Organization, and in the Constitution of Uganda, so that every worker has the right to form a union, and champion the cause of the workers within that union. And that is the mandate which trade unions have, other than any other organization claiming to represent teachers. So we want that money to go to teachers' unions, and these teachers' unions have the capacity, because they are regulated by government. They have their standing instructions and standing orders to manage the affairs of the teachers and to manage any other shortcomings, because that's why they are mandated to be there. So we want that money, first of all, to be released immediately. Secondly, that money must go to the teachers' unions who are actually mandated and are organized to carry out the functions for which that fund is meant. Then, of course, the schools are about to open. We are saying we cannot allow the schools to open unless this issue has been addressed. In fact, we have talked to our membership across the whole country. If this money is not released by 10th of October, don't think about reopening of schools, even if it is candidate classes. We are going to talk to our membership, we are going to talk to our teachers, and we shall all be on the streets and say, first of all, let us survive before we can go to offer services, educate the masses amidst the challenges of contracting and dying from COVID-19. So those are some of the approaches we are trying to use as trade unions.
But there seem to be very many unions. You have UNATU, now there are some two here, then some several others. Where should government put this money? Now,
the point is very clear. And I think the president, when he was making this statement, he made it very, very clear. He said, this fund is supposed to help teachers as workers. Those who did not get posho, those who did not get any relief, they are supposed to be assisted. That is the primary purpose of that money. That's number one. Two, other challenges, other education providers like directors of private schools, he also made a provision for them. He said they can get relief on loans if they had borrowed money. Two, they can also get a development fund from Uganda, from African Development Bank, where they can get money to sustain their institutions, their enterprises. But this money is mainly meant for teachers. Now you asked me, who are the rightful people to be in charge of this fund? They are the teachers. And who are those teachers? First of all, we have Uganda Private Teachers Union. It is headed by the General Secretary Mwaura Juma, and he's there. And he's very actively involved in organizing these teachers. We have Uganda Liberal Teachers Union. Our mandate is also very clear. We are supposed to represent teachers in both public and private institutions, right away from nursery up to university level. So those are the rightful people. Now we have other unions. We don't know, maybe there is another union, but we know that union, their mandate is mainly to look at teachers in government schools, teachers in public schools. So if the docket goes to private school teachers, then the unions which have been organizing the private school teachers are the rightful people through whom this fund can be channeled so that it reaches to the people who are on the ground and who are supposed to benefit from that grant. So the things are just two. One, we have to help our teachers to survive, those who are in dire need of survival. Secondly, we have to put down sustainable programs and projects within our unions where this money can be used to generate more money so that it can benefit more people and in a sustainable manner. I think that's how we are going to address that challenge.
I have one or two questions in regards to the same issue. Government has a new program for resumption of schools come 15th October. What's your take on it?
Now, for the resumption of schools, we as unions, we have been watching very keenly. But of course, we thank government for the lockdown, because that one has saved very many children, about 15 million children, and learners who would be affected by COVID-19 if they concentrate in schools. It has also saved our teachers, around 380,000 teachers across the country, both in public and private institutions. So that one means that they have been working. Some of them have been working online, others have been home. Now, if the opening is coming, we made our conditions very clear. We said, first of all, there must be protective equipment for our teachers. That is, they need to have masks. We need to put provision for social distancing in schools. We have to put the issues of sanitation in schools. It's a very, very important issue. So as schools begin, sanitation must be very important. We have hand washing facilities. So if those facilities are not there, they have to be provided for every school that is going to open. And I think the Ministry of Education has been working on that. And we need more sensitization to our teachers, because they are the ones who will be handling these children, and also who will be affected. So, and the class sizes is also an important intervention we are calling upon. The size must be a reasonable class. The class must be a reasonable size, where the children must be allowed to keep distance from one another. Then the teachers also must be protected. I think methods of teaching must change. You are not supposed to go around touching every book and so on and so on and so forth. We need to look at those issues. But the most important thing we are calling upon is that we need adequate training through our unions, through our teachers' organizations, to ensure that by the time the schools open, everybody is versed on what is supposed to do, so that education can go on alongside the pandemic and its challenges. So those are some of the interventions we are talking about. Training is extremely important, and physical facilities must also be available. Money must be put in these institutions where candidate classes are going to start studying, because the physical facilities must be there, class sizes, so that whatever is missing, money must be injected into that in that direction, to ensure that the required standard operating procedures are in place. Then, of course, there must be monitoring, which is very important. At times, you put procedures, you put operation standards, but people don't observe them. They neglect them deliberately. So, as unions, we are saying there must be a mechanism to enforce and monitor the observance of the standard operating procedures as schools open. But if all our teachers are not happy, if all our teachers are not taken care of, we can't think about only teachers on government payroll. We have to think about teachers in private institutions where these candidate classes are going to start studying. Yes.
There is a proposal to test all teachers or staff members as they resume on duty. Then where does this leave the safety of pupils or students?
Yeah, I think testing is extremely important, but it must be done in a very well calculated and scientific way, because if the teachers are tested, it also becomes mandatory that the children also must be tested. So there must be testing kits in these schools. So a lot of money must also go in procuring these testing kits, so that at some interval, the teachers are tested and other support staff within the school, not only teachers. But the children also must be tested. Now, we are beginning with a smaller number of learners, candidate classes. That means if the school has been having about 1,000 learners, when all the classes are ongoing, it means if we go with candidate classes, you might find they can be around 50 or less than 100. So there must be testing kits for all those learners. But another challenge is the movement, those going home, those coming back. I think a policy must be designed to ensure that there is a...
That government is proposing go to be in boarding section.
Yeah, I think that one is also very, very wise, because if people continue interacting with the rest of the community where the control measures cannot be enforced fully, then we have a risk of one person coming into the school and infecting others through negligence on observing the standard operating procedures. So if there was provision for all those candidate classes to begin as borders, then that one can also help and can save many lives from infections and from the eventual effects of the COVID-19. But I think that one will also help us. So we feel that boarding has to be there. But also, as teachers, we are supposed to be innovative. We are not supposed to keep looking on and waiting for advices from the Ministry of Health and government. But also, as teachers, one of our important roles is that we are supposed to be innovative. How do we put in new mechanisms of passing on education, continuing education, without necessarily congesting in classes, without necessarily people moving from here and there? So the importance of technology must be employed so that we can have distance learning. Then we need to think about new forms of bringing learners together, not necessarily in these schools of 1,000, 5,000. We need to look at some of the innovations where education can even be passed on, even in the local area, in the local setup, in villages, because now some children will move some distance. That one is okay. So we need to see how we can control that one. Some people don't want to lose money. They don't want to lose business. They want children to go there and congest. For them, they get profit. They don't mind who is infected. They don't mind who dies. So I think something must be designed, and we are designing it already as teachers, to ensure that new mechanisms of learning must be thought out and must be employed so that we can live alongside the pandemic, COVID-19, but also have education going on. For us, we are concerned about our children who are getting pregnant day by day, especially girls, of course, girls. Then the boys are also losing out completely because they are going to very other funny odd jobs. Some of them are taking into drugs and so on. So we are losing a generation. So we cannot wait. We need to work very hard